The next step in our series of how to use your smartphone to aid your son or daughter with their hitting in games is this. The most fundamental error that we see with youth hitters tends to be they reverse the sequence and fire from their upper body before they fire from their legs. We need to rewind and find out why exactly this is happening, because it can happen for a multitude of reasons. But the first one we're going to check is what their body looks like at foot down. In order for us to use the lower half first and make sure we're engaging the strongest muscles of the body, we have to land in a strong position. So we're going to go over now what that hitting position should look like, and if you're using your smartphone to video from the side, the key points that are critical in making sure your son or daughter is in a position to first use their lower half. And it seems is this. When I land at foot down, you're going to see that my body needs to be wide and grounded. I want to be in a near centered position with my mindset being slightly back of center. We teach 60-40 at foot down. What we'll see youth players often do, one, they end up getting into their front side quite a bit. You can see me leaning into my front leg. And when we break forward of center, we're losing our legs in the swing. The second fundamental error they make is they're too upright. I call this being up on stilts. For me to use the legs first, I have to completely engage the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes. For that to happen, I need to press the ground away from me to fully feel those muscles flexed and ready to fire. So the depth of a player at foot down needs to be down well enough where you can see deep knee bend in a very wide position. So the width is critical first in order to get the depth. If your players play basketball as well, that's basically their basketball defensive stance. So I'm well outside the framework of my shoulders, and for a youth player, this is about 50% of their height. So if you're working on a tee at home, that's something you can measure and put down with just pieces of duct tape to make sure we're getting out to 50% of their height. With youth players and youth bats, that's usually the length of their bat. So we need to get into that position in order to use the ground for leverage, get a ground reaction force that's allowing me to use those flex muscles to start rotating first in the swing. Next, as we work up the body into the hitting position, in order for the legs to fire first, the upper body has to have resistance. We need to have the hands back at foot down. You'll see how I separate. I'm walking forward, walking away from my hands. My hands are beyond the shoulder into what we call our scapulode position. That's the elbow pulled back and elevated. This is tightening the spring or the coil around the body, but more importantly, the resistance of the upper body allows the legs to make sure we're firing first. When we're in a correct scapulode, you'll notice that the barrel is tilted somewhere over the head, typically not around it. There's some wiggle room for air there, but a good scapulode leads usually to a good bat angle. The errors you'll see your players make here is they'll end up completely wrapped, where the elbow is sunk, my scap is relaxed now. Now they're just going to have to use the shoulders to rotate the bat around, or the bat is going to fall down flat behind them. The reason this happens is they're starting their swing with their hands at the same time that they're stepping. This usually happens because they're simply going too fast in the step because they're rushed and starting late. Reference the video we just did on start time with a hitter. That start time has to be correct to have a slow enough stride to be able to pull back into this strong hitting position. So in summation, 3 things we're looking for. Wide base at foot down with good knee depth. I'm walking away from the hands with separation into an upper body load that has resistance. And the final piece of that is the bat will be tilted over my head, not around it. So those 3 things are checkpoints you can do on your smartphone to make sure we're in a strong hitting position in order to use our legs first.